Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this in one go, therefore I apologise in advance if I stumble over my words going forwards, and indeed if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it can't be helped, and hopefully it's not too much of an issue for you. Today is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and one that I've wanted to film for a good few weeks. Obviously, the 2020 contest did not take place because of the worldwide pandemic, as we are all very much aware. And on the night of what would have been this year's grand final in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, we had a different broadcast. Eurovision Europe Shine a Light. Not only did we have that, but in some other European countries, they had their own Eurovision replacement shows where you could vote for your nation's Eurovision 2020 winner, that sort of thing. Here in the UK, we had Eurovision Come Together, with Graham Norton doing his thing, and it was essentially performance after performance, the actual Eurovision performances, with the actual Eurovision postcards too, and it was about between 15 and 20 songs, if I recall, and the British public could vote on their favourite. Spoiler alert in case you do not know the result, but Waterloo by ABBA, Sweden 1974, is the tune that came out on top in that British Eurovision Come Together vote. That got me thinking about my own list. So what I've got in front of me, and I put this list together a couple of weeks ago actually, it's a list of 50 songs, 50 great Eurovision entries from over the years, ranging from the 1950s right up until last year. And feel free to let me know your thoughts on this list. I could have whittled it down to about 20 songs, but I thought, why not? All of these songs are great in their own way. They all deserve a bit of recognition. And obviously it's very, very difficult to go through the 1,000 plus songs that there's ever been in Eurovision and come up with a list of just 50. But I think these performances, they're all iconic in some way. The songs are great, or the performance was really great, or both things, the song and the performance, were just a match made in heaven, or the song had quite a lot of commercial success or a lot of buzz, etc, etc. I haven't put these songs into any sort of list. I can do and make a video about that at some point in the near future. How I'm going to do this is just go from the very first one right up until the most recent. Let me know your thoughts, maybe come up with your own list. I think this is a pretty strong list if I say so myself. It was a list of 51, but I've actually removed one, so we have a nice round number, I guess. I'll begin then with Italy 1958, and this is Nel blu dipinto di blu volare, a song that has been covered by many a musician over the past several decades. It's such a famous song. I believe it won a Grammy Award for Record of the Year, and this was in Eurovision's infancy. It's just remarkable. Domenica Modugno, what a lot of people forget about him is that he came back, I think, twice more for Italy, and both of his results weren't actually that great, if I recall. Certainly one of them wasn't. I think he got a big fat 0 one year. But anyway, this was, at the time, come on now, it was the late 50s. Technology was nothing like what it is now. It was in black and white. But the performance really was very strong. This was involved in that BBC replacement show a couple of weeks ago. You know, the verses are fairly gentle, and then we have this big chorus, and he's got his arms above his head, and he's belting this song out. Great singer. And this is, without question, well, I suppose it's up for debate. I'll have to take a look at the actual facts and statistics, but surely it is the most commercially successful Eurovision song there's ever been. I can't see anything topping it. Can you imagine a Eurovision winner these days winning Record of the Year at the Grammys? It just wouldn't happen. It didn't even win Eurovision. It finished third. Remarkable. Should have won, but there we are. 1963 is next. Denmark, the first Scandinavian country to win. This song's in this list because I think it was ahead of its time. This is quite a cool, mysterious, almost otherworldly type of song. Very different from the usual ballads that we got in the contest at that time. Excuse me, Denmark doing something different. Dansa Visa by Greta and Jørgen Ingman. The focus very much on her. There was this sort of swirling, slight psychedelic thing going on with the performance. I thought it was really terrific. when I watched this for the first time many years ago. I still think it's terrific, a worthy winner. Italy again now, 1964, and this is absolutely one of the very best Eurovision songs we've ever had. Non ho l'età, I'm not old enough, I believe that translates as, by Giulio Cinquetti, who was 16 at the time. This was in Copenhagen. And we don't have, I don't think, the full performance of this song. We have some of it. Just remarkable. Great voice, very simply staged, of course, all about the vocals, really. It's such a beautiful song. Very gentle, but packs a punch, I think. And just fabulous. Such a wonderful, wonderful song. Easily one of the best classics we've ever had. No doubt about it. Then we have another absolute Eurovision gem. And this was involved also in the Eurovision BBC replacement show, which I was very happy about. This is Luxembourg, the winner from 1965. France Gall, another young female performer. Poupée de cire, poupée de son, which I think translates as wax doll, singing doll, something like that. This was written by Serge Gainsbourg, very famous French musician. The lyrics, maybe a little bit controversial, given the age of France at the time, but we won't go into that. This song is just so catchy, so cool. It's in that new wave, yay French style that I suppose was really coming into its own in the 1960s. Just fantastic. It's a shame that this song was actually in 1965, because on a bigger stage these days, it would just look absolutely fantastic with all the colours and everything. Just wonderful. This song, again, an absolute Eurovision classic. It has to be deemed as such. We then move on to 1968. Not too sure about this one, but I suppose it is a classic as well. Congratulations by Cliff Richard for the United Kingdom. He lost to Spain by 1 point. Whether it's true or not, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe he spent much of the voting in the toilets crying. Or because he was too nervous and then he was upset afterwards. Can't quite remember. Anyway, Cliff Richard, huge star. My dad's a fan of his music. Huge star. Massive. He was in a movie called Summer Holiday. He's had a couple of Christmas #1s. He's been quiet for a while, but I'm sure he'll come back at some point. Anyway, this song, he was in a sort of, if I recall, he was in a suit. A sort of like bluish, greenish suit. Can't quite remember. He was, dancing about on the spot. It's catchy, quite repetitive. To be honest, should it have won? Yeah, maybe. Because this song's more memorable than the winner, perhaps. Anyway, 1970 Ireland. Ireland's first win. Dana, would you believe it, another young female performer. Now, I believe Dana had never set foot outside of Ireland before she went to the Netherlands and won. Remarkable. She was still at school. All kinds of everything. This is such a harmless, gentle ditty. She was sitting on this stool. It was oh so sweet. Lovely tune. It won. And of course Ireland went on to win another 6 times. We then move on to 1971 Monaco. This is Monaco's only win. Not too sure if it should be in this list. Let me know your thoughts on it. But it's Un banc, un arbre, une rue by Séverine. Such a powerful song this. It was on early in the running order if I recall. But she just belted it out. Haven't heard much from her for a very long time. I don't know if she sort of dismissed her Eurovision win or whether she's still making music. I've absolutely no idea. There were rumours as well at the time, I believe, this is based on stuff that I've read over the past few years, that she actually had never set foot in Monaco at all before representing Monaco and singing this song and then winning. However, that was dismissed because I think she filmed a postcard there, but apparently the whole team involved in this song was French, which is not really a surprise given Monaco's size. But this is a great song. 1973, next, Spain. Didn't win, but this song was a big hit all over Europe and indeed America. This is Mocedades with Eres Tu. Another very beautiful, simple tune. I don't really have too much to say about it. It narrowly lost out to Luxembourg. This was Anne-Marie David, who would later represent France and finish 3rd, I believe. This is Tu te reconnaîtras. And this was a massively successful winner. In terms of the point system at the time, I think this definitely goes down as one of the most successful Eurovision songs, points-wise, voting-wise, we've ever had. Anyway, really great, such a powerful voice. don't really have too much to say about it. I'm going to repeat myself here. ABBA's next, Sweden 1974. Those outfits, the star-shaped guitar. I mean, what a classic. The performance, nothing special. Let's be honest. Nothing special. But the song is so recognisable all over the world. Such a big hit. And it kick-started ABBA's career, really. And it's worth saying that they did try to represent Sweden the year before with Ring Ring. I think that was the song. And if that had gone to Eurovision, yes, it probably would have won. But if they had gone to Eurovision, we may never have heard Waterloo at Eurovision. And Giulio Cinquetti, who was the runner-up in 1974, would have become the first person to win twice. Who knows? It's all history. Anyway, Waterloo, fantastic. Arguably the best Eurovision song we've had. Let's be realistic here. We then have Brotherhood of Man for the UK 1976, Save Your Kisses for Me. That very simple, easy to do dance routine. Every year on British TV, Brotherhood of Man reappear and do that performance, recreating the moves every single year without fail. And apart from this year. But it's a catchy song. I think this was on first, and it came out on top. Massively successful. This song was the biggest selling single of 1976 in the UK, I think. Millions of copies. What else can you say? Next up is Israel 1978, their first win. Ijar Cohen, we saw him at Eurovision last year. He read out the points for Israel. Looking good for his age, I must say. Ijar Cohen and the Alphabeta, Abani B, catchy. I mean, he was really going for it. This was in Paris. Yeah, it's Israel's first win. And it's a great song. That's why it's in this list. We then have a song that finished fourth in 1979. This is Germany, Genghis Khan by Genghis Khan. If you haven't seen the performance of this song, it's worth looking it up. It's quite over the top. The lead singer just running from side to side. A little bit chaotic. Certainly not a surprise it didn't win, because I suppose it was a little bit silly. But it's a really good song, and if you're talking about Eurovision entries that didn't even finish in the top 3, this has to be one of the very strongest we've ever had. Fourth place for this, fantastic. Still popular today. We then have another song from 1979, it's Israel again, Galiatari with Milk and Honey and Hallelujah. I've never been a huge fan of this one, but I've heard it plenty of times. We heard it at Eurovision last year, we heard it in the replacement show, Europe Shine a Light. It's a very sweet song. I don't have much else to say about it. Catchy, I suppose, even though it's quite slow. Let me know your thoughts. 1980, Ireland, Johnny Logan, born in Australia. What's Another Year, my least favourite of his entries, including the one that he wrote for Linda Martin, which also won, of course. I don't mind it, and it's a bit of a classic, you know, for Ireland, certainly. We then have UK 1981, Bucks Fizz, Making Your Mind Up, all about those skirts, and that move that they did, which was sort of iconic and widely talked about at the time, I'm sure. Bucks Fizz, still going, known as The Fizz. And every year they resurface on British television to do interviews and talk about their victory. It was a very narrow victory, let's not forget, but a classic. I keep using that term, but it is. 1982 in Harrogate, Germany's first win, Nicole, another young female performer. Ein bisschen Frieden, this went to number 1 in England. In the UK, remarkable. Girl with a guitar, very nice, but perhaps a bit dreary for some. Then we have Ireland 1987. This is Johnny Logan's second win, and the song of his that I prefer, Hold Me Now. This one just feels a bit more powerful to me. Good singer, really went for it. Honestly deserved to win, I think. Switzerland 1988, Celine Dion went on to have an extraordinary career, of course. Little did she know that, you know, barely 10 years later she'd be singing the theme song to Titanic, which went on to become the most commercially successful film of all time, until Avatar and then The Avengers. Celine Dion, Ne partez pas sans moi, won by 1 point, but this was the deserving winner. Another young female performer, I keep saying that, but it seems to be a trend at Eurovision, does it not? She was wearing this sort of, not very flattering skirt, if I recall. She was young, we'll cut her some slack. It was all about the voice anyway, fantastic. 1990, on home soil, Yugoslavia. This finished 7th. Which is ridiculous, because this was so brilliant. It's Tay Chi, who very recently performed this song on YouTube with a bunch of her musical friends. It's well worth looking it up. Haide de Ludojemo. So yes, it's 30 years since this song. She was in a tight pink dress, and she just really went for it. It's so catchy. It's been performed on things like The Voice by lots of you know, prospective musicians and things like that. Really worth looking up. 7th place is way too low. It's better than Yugoslavia's winning song the year before. We then have France, 1991, tied for the win, but on the tiebreak rule, Sweden came out on top. Very recently, the 1991 contest was on the official Eurovision YouTube page, but it's now been taken down. However, the contest is still online if you want to take a look at it. This was Amina, C'est le dernier qui a parlé qui a raison, a sultry, slinky tune, very different and very unique for France. This was their second place result in a row. Something with a scarf, you know, just like smouldering looks into the camera. Absolutely fantastic. This is a great example of a song that I didn't think much of the first time I heard it, but now I'm older, I can really appreciate. And if this had won over Sweden, fine, because it's a really great song. We then have Poland's debut, 1994. Never been a huge fan of this song myself. Tonia, which I think means it's not me, could be wrong. Edyta Górniak, who did try to represent her country a few years ago as well. This is a ballad. She was in a white dress, belted it out, sounded great, runner-up, what more can you say? 1995, Norway, fantastic. All about the instrument... Oh, stumbling over my words here. All about the instrumentals. The violin. And so on. We know how it goes. Nocturne, Secret Garden, Irish violinist, it's worth saying, if I recall. Just beautiful. Haunting, ethereal. Ah, very pretty. Worthy winner. Then we have the UK 1996, Gina G, born in Australia, I believe. This was the last UK entry to go to #1 in the UK, and it did well in America. Ooh, just a little bit. Computers on stage that weren't even plugged in. 2 dancers, one in a fluorescent yellowish dress, one in a pink dress. Gina G in this sort of chain link. That's the only way that I can describe it. Dress. She didn't sound brilliant on the night. She was on very early in the running order, but this finished 8th, according to my notes, which is way too low. It's a very upbeat, clubby pop song, and arguably one of our best over the past 30 years. We then have Katrina and the Waves, of course, born in America, absolute legend. Every year, Katrina's back on TV talking about her win. She can still really sing. I mean, she really can. Absolutely fantastic. Love Shine a Light. This is the Eurovision anthem. She was wearing a sort of green button-up shirt on stage and a sort of black jacket. Fantastic. We all know it. Won by an absolutely crushing margin. Well deserved. 1998, excuse me, Israel, Dana International Diva. I've never been a big fan of this song. It only just won. I think why it's in this list is because of how iconic it was. And there was so much buzz around Dana International at the time. Her history as well. And, I mean, it's a decent pop song. What else is there to say? We then move on to 2000. I'm going to rattle through these now because I'm getting fed up with my own voice. And you're probably fed up with my voice as well. Denmark 2000, Olsen Brothers, Fly on the Wings of Love. Nobody really thought this was going to win. 2 guys who were probably already in their 50s at the time. Just a really sweet song. Everybody waving their glow sticks in the Globe Arena in Stockholm. Fantastic. Turkey 2003, Sertab Erener, Every Way That I Can. Nice choreography, quite slick, powerful vocals. On early in the running order, but it didn't matter. Only just one, but still a classic. Certainly a winner that has not been forgotten, I would say. Ukraine 2004, only their 2nd ever entry, and they won. Ruslana, iconic figure in Ukraine. I believe she went into politics as well. Wild Dances, sort of inspired by Xena Warrior Princess, you know, chains and whips and all of that sort of thing. It was so frantic, but really engaging, and it deserved to win. The runner-up that year, also fantastic, Serbia and Montenegro, Željko Joksimovic, who is a bit of a Eurovision legend. Everything he touches, you know, turns to gold, pretty much. With the ad hoc orchestra, L'année Moria, which I believe means My Fawn, that haunting music at the start. This is a cracking Balkan ballad, and honestly, we've rarely had better. In fact, I'm not sure we have had better. Brilliant song. Another example of a song that at the time wasn't so keen on, but now I can really appreciate. You know, Greece 2005, Helena Paparizou, Swedish Roots, my #1. This was well behind in the voting and then surged up towards the end. Worthy winner, a bit of choreography, a couple of guys on stage with her, you know, boogieing away. She looked good, sounded good, great pop song. Moving on. Finland 2006, this is here because it was the biggest winner in terms of points at the time, just under 300. It was so flashy and so wild, and there were pyrotechnics, and they were all in this makeup, and You know, newspapers across Europe were talking about them. They had it in the bag. Lordi, Hard Rock Hallelujah, the only hard rock song to win, which is a bit of a shame, and the last band to win, also a shame. We then have 2007, Serbia, Maria Sherifovic. This is such a great song. She performed this on the empty streets of Belgrade during that Eurovision Europe Shine a Light show. It was just sublime. What a voice. What a voice. Molitva, which means prayer, builds up and builds up to this really rousing, stirring finale. Absolutely fantastic. What else can I say about it? Just wonderful. And at the time, wasn't chuffed that Serbia won, but now I can say the right song did come out on top, no doubt about it. Very simple performance in Helsinki, but it really, really worked. Then we have the runner-up, of course, Verka Serduchka for Ukraine, Dancing Lasha Tumbai. This is so silly, but it's so catchy. Go A's cover of this song, you must look up. It was just fantastic the first time I saw it. It's very catchy, I think I've already said that. And it was such a silly performance, but it worked. You know, it worked. And if this had won, nobody would have been mad about it. Norway 2009. This replaced Lordi as the most successful Eurovision winner in terms of points. Crushed the opposition. I mean, nobody else stood a chance. Alexander Rybak, actually from Belarus, but we'll gloss over that. With Fairy Tale, there he is playing the violin, pretending to play the violin. One of the strings was broke, if I recall. A couple of people on stage with him. This is a sort of folky pop song. Really catchy, really nice, moving on. Every year he turns up as well. Lena for Germany 2010 in Oslo, Satellite. I went everywhere for you. This sort of exaggerated British accent. Another young female performer. I don't think she was wearing any footwear. Could be wrong. I remember at the end of the show, she kept trying to get Alexander Rybak to kiss her. Do remember that. I've always liked Lena. She's released a bunch of albums. She's had a very successful career. And of course, she came back a year later for Germany too. 2012, Sweden, Loreen, Euphoria. This is probably the best performance we've ever seen. Will it be surpassed? Probably not for a long time. This was just great. Simply done. Guy turns up at the end and dances with her. Fake snow. Fantastic. It's going to win that end of year poll for many more years to come. If anything, are we sick of it yet? Have we heard it too much? I don't know. Denmark 2013, Emily de Forest. You know what I'm going to say here, another young female performer. Only Teardrops. I feel as though this song is a little bit underrated now. People have sort of forgotten about it, but I think it's a really good winner. I mean, we have that sort of Celtic thing going on at the start. I mean, just wonderful. Emily was barefoot in this ragged dress. She's only a few weeks younger than me. Still making music. Check out Hopscotch. Check out Any Less. Good songs. And I've got her album. Really likeable singer. And hopefully she'll come up with some more stuff soon. Has a YouTube channel as well. Conchita Wurst, Austria 2014, Rise Like a Phoenix. Again, an iconic win. Everybody was talking about the beard rather than the song. The song itself is great. A sort of Bond theme thing going on. Great vocals. Classy. Looked great. And Austria's first win since the 60s. I was disappointed. Still am disappointed. Mainly because it has to be said, I think the buzz surrounding Conchita as a person helped. And not as many people were actually talking about the song. And that's why, partially why, Austria triumphed. However, let's take nothing away from Conchita. Rise Like a Phoenix is a really great song. But for me, the runner-up is just world class. One of the best performances, if not the best performance I've ever seen live. Well, on TV regarding Eurovision. This is the Netherlands, the runner-up in 2014, the Common Linnets, Calm After the Storm, Country, the camera panning around Wales and Nilsa. I've said this loads of times, black and white colour scheme, just wonderful. Just wonderful. Outside bet the week of the contest, and then people started talking about the rehearsals, and then the semi-final performance, and then all of a sudden, would you look at that, it's the runner-up. 2015, Sweden. Shouldn't have won by such a convincing margin, but it's a great pop song, so slick. Måns Zelmerlöw really knew what he was doing. Consummate professional. Heroes, he resurfaces every year as well. Now lives in Britain, interacting with that sort of on-screen puppet. Casually dressed, like I said, a slick pop song. Sweden, doing what they do best, and it worked. The runner-up, not the runner-up, that's Russia. That could be in this list, let me know your thoughts. But Italy, the public's favourite, Il Volo, hugely successful band all over the world. They've performed everywhere. Grande Amore, three guys, sort of operatic in style. Again, classy, but this is Italy, so what do we expect? And it was on last in the running order. Should have won. arguably, let's be quite honest, this should have won. Come on now. That's just my opinion, but maybe you'll agree with me. Moving on, Ukraine 2016. I've never been a huge fan of this song. I've said that before. 1944, Jamala, great vocalist, simply staged, that tree sort of blooming on the LED screen towards the end, and that high note, just very different, captivating, powerful, you know, with a message. That's probably why I won. Then we have Australia 2016, Damiim, incredible vocals, sparkly dress, sitting on that podium, interacting with that stuff, like the movie Minority Report, which I really like. Sound of Silence, what can you say about this? Not much. I think I've said all that needs to be said. Should it have won? Probably. Missed out by about 25, 30 points. Third place that year, Sergei Lazarev came back, of course, last year and finished third as well. You Are the Only One, climbing up that screen, looked really great. Russia doing what they do best, a big blast of pop, and it almost worked. He won the public vote, but not the jury vote. The juries let him down. 2017, Portugal. At last, Portugal triumphed. Salvador Sobral sort of didn't really seem to be that interested in the Eurovision experience, but he came out on top by a huge, huge, huge margin. The public really went big for this as well. Amar Pelostoish, love for the two of us. That reprise he did at the end with his sister Louisa, who wrote the song, that was really touching. And I think the song has aged like a fine wine. Not that I am a big drinker. But anyway, it's a great song. Israel 2018, Netta, Toy. This was crazy, a little bit wacky, very strange, but again, captivating, interesting, vibrant, something different from Israel. And it was a battle with the next song I'm about to mention, Cyprus, Eleni Foureira. This song, Fuego, I think is more popular than Toy now, I'll be honest. More people talk about Fuego. Eleni just looked sensational. Couple of dancers with her. Fire, as you would expect. And it had a good slot in the running order, as did Israel, to be fair. And a worthy runner-up. Simple as that. Slick, slick pop. And then two from last year. The winner, the Netherlands. Beautiful, beautiful ballad. Duncan Lawrence. His new material's really good too. Arcade, we all know it. I'm not going to talk about it. Sat behind the piano, blue colour scheme. Light came down from the ceiling and then went back up again, I think. Fantastic. And sort of lasers on the backdrop as well towards the end. And Australia. Just brilliant. I think it's too recent to be called a Eurovision classic. Maybe in about 10, 15, 20 years. But this was unlike anything we've ever had before. Kate Miller-Heidke finally getting the recognition she deserves in Europe because she's such a successful musician in her homeland. Not all of her music sounds like this. Zero gravity, hitting those high notes, swinging about on that pole. I mean, really going for it. This was just epic, for want of a better word. It really was. It blew everything else away. And in terms of which performance do you remember more, Arcade or Zero Gravity, I think a lot of people would say the latter. But anyway, that's it. What a rambling video. I do apologise, must work on this. So out of those 50 songs, I do believe it is 50, the one that I admitted, by the way, was Ladeswinger for Norway 1985, their first win. Which one comes out on top? In terms of performance, arguably Euphoria, if I'm being as neutral as possible. In terms of song, arguably Waterloo. But in terms of commercial success, you could say Nel Blu di Pinto di Blu Volare. In terms of a recent absolute gem, so post-Euphoria, Rise Like a Phoenix, 1944, Amar Pelos Dois. Whatever it is, let me know what you think. Maybe I'll come back with another video soon where I've actually ranked these songs in terms of, you know, how great they are. It would be very difficult to do, but maybe it's going to pass a bit of time. And that's it. That's this video. My take on the best songs we've had in Eurovision so far. None from this year, purely because this year's contest didn't take place, but maybe Iceland would have joined that list. You could have put Switzerland in, Bulgaria in, Russia, Lithuania. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Feel free to leave comments. My other social media pages will be in the description below as well. If there's any Eurovision classic that I've missed out, I might just put my own comment down below, so be on the lookout for that, because chances are I probably did miss somebody. Great shame if I have. Until next time, coming up to half an hour, thank you if you've stuck with this. Feel free to share it on social media. Whatever you like, feel free to leave a like, subscribe. That's all very much appreciated. Until next time, I'll be back with another Eurovision video before too long. Bye for now. Bye for now.